The rain in Lisbon came without warning, as if the gods had knocked over a water jar of the Douro River. Standing under the eaves of the port warehouse, Isabella Costa watched the last crate of her father's coffee beans get soaked by the rain. Dark brown liquid seeped through the gaps in the wooden crate, spreading and blurring on the bluestone slabs. It looked exactly like the smudged eye makeup she'd worn at her mother's funeral 3 years ago. Her fingers tightened around the lace edge of her black morning dress, her knuckles whitening, her nails almost digging into her palm. Only this way could she hold back the sob rising in her throat. "Miss, these goods," the porter rubbed his hands, the pads of his fingers brushing the damp apron he wore, hesitating to speak. He'd worked for old Costa for 10 years and had never seen the young lady so quiet. Usually, she loved to stand on the warehouse steps, checking manifests with a silver fountain pen, her laughter brighter than the seagulls' cries at the pier. "Handle them according to the contract." Her voice was calmer than she'd expected, though a faint, imperceptible tremor lingered at the end of her words. Her father had taught her, tears are the cheapest thing in business. Just like coffee beans softened by rain, no matter how fragrant, they'd never fetch a good price that a long, dull steam whistle echoed in the distance, like a blunt knife grinding rusted iron. 3 days earlier, it had been that British flag cargo ship that, shrouded in thick fog, had collided with her father's Lisbon star and sunk it. The insurance investigator had left that morning. The brass clasp on his briefcase still carried the warehouse's dust. He'd only left a single sentence: "Determining liability for the accident will take time," before climbing into his black car. The muddy water splashed by the wheels had nearly soiled her morning shoes. "Isabella," a familiar male voice cut through the rain, breathless with haste. Federico Costa hurried over, holding a black umbrella. Mud splattered onto the hem of his charcoal gray suit as his leather shoes stepped into puddles, like ink accidentally spilled. His blonde hair was damp from the rain, a few strands sticking to his forehead, revealing those blue eyes that usually crinkled with laughter. Only today, that blue was veiled by a layer of mist. "You shouldn't be here." She turned her face away, her gaze fixing on a spiderweb in the corner of the warehouse. Raindrops dripped along the silk threads, hitting the shell of a huddled snail. The Costa family was avoiding her now, as if she carried a plague. Just yesterday, her second uncle had sent someone with a message, saying he wanted to transfer her father's winery in Porto to her cousin's name. Only this stubborn distant cousin dared to step foot in her territory. Federico tilted the umbrella far toward her, his own shoulder quickly soaking through, cold as if pressed against a block of ice. "Uncle Alfredo is looking for you." He softened his voice, as if afraid of disturbing something fragile. To call off the engagement? She let out a bitter laugh, the curve of her lips tinged with bitterness. The marriage her father had arranged was originally a bargaining chip to strengthen business ties between the two families. Now that her father was gone, she was an orphan with no dowry, and this marriage had naturally become a joke. Raindrops slid down Federico's blonde hair to his chin, then dripped into his collar. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand. The warmth of his palm seeped through her damp gloves, sending a tremor through her heart. "Marry me." Isabella yanked her hand back, but the faint impression of his palm's lines still lingered on her fingertips. "Have you lost your mind?" "I don't even have a dowry left." Her voice tightened, her eyes stinging. "I have savings." His eyes shone with a fierce, almost terrifying light, like a lighthouse suddenly illuminating the dark night. "We'll open a small trading firm in the Alfama district, selling the goods your father used to handle, Brazilian coffee, Angolan cocoa. You understand this business. I'm good with numbers. We can make it work." "Do you even know what you're saying?" Her voice began to shake, her fingertips cold. "Your father will disown you. How can the eldest son of the Costa family marry a woman who's lost even her ship?" Federico smiled, revealing a mischievous canine tooth, like a boy who'd never grown up. "Then good. I'm tired of the musty smell in the old mansion." He raised his hand to wipe the rain from her cheek. His fingertips brushed her cheekbone, rough with a faint scar, the mark from when he'd fallen out of a tree as a child. She remembered it in the rain. Cranes at the harbor were salvaging the wreckage of the sunken ship. The massive steel cables swayed in the rain, like a struggling python. Isabella suddenly recalled her father's frequent words. "Doing business is like operating a crane. You have to sink low to lift high. The key is finding the right weight to balance." "Why?" she finally asked, her voice as soft as a thread of rain. Federico pulled a silver pocket watch from his inner pocket. Its case was polished to a faint shine. Clearly, he carried it everywhere. He flipped it open. Inside, 2 overlapping olive leaves were engraved, their veins so detailed they looked as if they could bleed. "Remember? When we were 12, you saved my life." That summer by the Douro River, he'd chased a rugby ball that fell into the water and nearly been swept away by the swift current. She'd lain on the rocks by the riverbank, holding out an olive branch she'd just picked, shouting, "Hold on. Don't let go." Thorns on the branch had cut her palm. Droplets of blood fell into the river, mixing with his tears. Isabella's nose tingled. She thought she was the only one who remembered that day, remembered how he'd hugged her and cried after climbing ashore, saying he'd marry her when they grew up. Mr. Alfredo will never agree, she whispered, her gaze fixed on the watch's hands. Tick-tock, as if counting down. I'm 21 now. Federico wiped the rain from her face, his touch as gentle as if handling fragile porcelain. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, I'll be at Castello de São Jorge. If you don't come, I'll wait until the rain stops, until the sun comes up. A sharp, short car horn blared in the distance. Alfredo's black Mercedes was parked at the pier entrance. A uniformed driver stared toward them, his eyes under his cap as cold as ice. Go. Isabella pushed him, her fingertips brushing his soaked suit, cold enough to ache. Don't let your father see you. You'll only get scolded again. But Federico suddenly leaned down and pressed a kiss to her damp forehead. It was light, carrying the coolness of rain and the faint cedar scent of his cologne. The watch chain slipped from his fingers, brushing her collarbone, cold as seawater. See you tomorrow, my olive branch. He turned and ran into the rain, leaving his black umbrella at her feet. A few raindrops still clung to its ribs. Isabella knelt to pick up the umbrella, only to find her hands shaking so hard she could barely grip the handle. The port wind carried a salty tang, dispersing the last of the coffee beans' aroma from her father's crate. Only a damp, moldy smell remained, seeping into her collar. The warehouse manager poked his head out, his reading glasses slipping to the tip of his nose. Miss, these manifests. He held a stack of rain-soaked papers, her father's penmanship slowly blurring on the pages, like a coastline disappearing into the sea. Give them to me. She took the manifests, her fingertips brushing her father's familiar handwriting. Finally, her eyes stung. When her father wrote Brazil, he always drew the vertical hook of the Chinese character for 11, the second character in Baxi, the Chinese transliteration of Brazil, extra long, as if trying to pierce the paper. The rain lightened. Sunlight broke through the clouds, glinting on puddles at the pier, scattering tiny sparks. Isabella suddenly knelt, pressing the manifest to her knees and checking each page. The smudged numbers cleared in her eyes. The supply quantities, unit prices, and advance payment her father had written by hand were like a string of codes, slowly taking shape in her mind. Here. She pointed to a line of small print at the bottom right of the manifest, speaking to the manager. The advance payment to the Brazilian supplier hasn't been settled. According to the contract, a penalty fee is due if it's 3 days late. Tomorrow, I'll go to Porto and negotiate an extension with them. The manager blinked in surprise, his glasses nearly falling off. The young lady who'd cried until she fainted yesterday, who'd needed help just to stand, now had eyes as sharp as a general assessing a battlefield. Even her tone carried an unshakable firmness. As Isabella walked toward the pier, the heel of her leather shoe got stuck in a gap between the wooden planks. She pulled hard. There was a click, and the heel broke off, falling to the ground with a clear sound. It reminded her of what her father had said when teaching her waltz at 7 years old. A true lady never stops dancing just because her heel breaks. A true lady, she muttered to herself, twisting off the other heel and tossing both broken pieces into the sea. She watched them spin on the water's surface before sinking. Learns to walk a new path in broken shoes. The phone in the port office suddenly rang, its ring shrill as an alarm. The operator stuck her head out, calling, "Miss Costa. Mr. Alfredo is on the line for you." Isabella waved without looking back, not pausing her steps. Far out at sea, a crane lifted half of the sunken ship's mast. Sunlight danced on the twisted metal, like the glint of her father's gold pocket watch. He'd always said he'd save that watch for her dowry. Isabella, Federico's voice called again, breathless. He ran back, the hem of his suit covered in mud, even grass clippings in his hair. Clearly, he'd run a long way. My father agreed. She spun around, nearly slipping. She grabbed the iron railing beside her, just in time, her palms scraping rust. Federico hurried to steady her. His palm was burning hot. Through the thin fabric of her sleeve, she could feel his fingertips trembling. The condition is we sign a prenuptial agreement. Your debts, I'll pay my own debts. She pulled her hand free, yanking a pearl hairpin from her updo, a memento from her mother. The pearl was as round and soft as moonlight. This is enough for 6 months' warehouse rent. I'll figure out the rest. Federico burst out laughing, his voice so loud it startled a flock of seagulls from the railing. God, I love that fire in you. He ruffled her hair, plucking a grass clipping from between her strands. You know what Lisbon's missing most right now? Smart businessmen. She raised an eyebrow, a faint smile finally tugging at her lips. Houses for ordinary people. He gestured excitedly, pointing to the shanties with tin roofs in the port area. Ramshackle structures that shook in the wind and leaked when it rained. Everyone who came back after the war is crammed into slums. 5 people living in a tiny 10-square-meter hut. Banks would rather lend money to fishing boats than approve mortgages. They say common people can't pay them back. Isabella frowned as she looked at the shanties. Sunlight glinted off the tin roofs, harsh and blinding. Just last week, she'd heard her father complain about a plot of land north of the city that no one had wanted for 5 years. Everyone avoided it because it was near an old factory, considered unlucky. The land price was so low it was practically free. "How much money do you have?" she suddenly asked, her gaze turning serious. Federico emptied all his pockets, pulling out stacks of escudo bills and a single gold coin, an inheritance from his grandmother. With Grandma's inheritance, about 20,000 escudos. He counted, his fingertips trembling. "It might not be enough to buy the land, but we could hire a few workers first. I know a notary." She tossed the broken shoe heel into the sea. Waves rolled in with foam, carrying the heel out of sight. "After we sign the prenuptial agreement tomorrow, we'll go straight to the land registry. I know that plot. It's close to the tram line, perfect for building apartments." "Wait." Federico grabbed her wrist, the warmth of his palm warming her heart. "You really want to do this? We could lose everything. We might not even have money for food." Isabella glanced at the coffee beans being loaded onto a truck. Sweat soaked the porter's shirts, leaving salt stains clinging to their backs like white scars. Her father had once said, "The safest business isn't selling the most expensive goods, it's solving most people's troubles. The bigger the trouble, the more stable the business." "Do you know why cranes need counterweights?" She gently pried his fingers loose, her fingertips tracing the lines of his palm. "Without the weight pulling down, you can't lift heavy things. Right now, we're just looking for our counterweight. The bigger the risk, the greater the reward will be someday." Federico's eyes lit up, like a ship finally finding its course. He pulled out his pocket watch and flipped it open. Even after all these years, a trace of Douro River silt was still stuck in the olive leaf engravings, never cleaned out. "Tomorrow at 10. Don't forget." "9." She corrected him, her fingertip brushing the watch case. "The notary's office opens at 8:30. We'll go early. After signing, we can get pastillas de nata at the corner shop. I remember it's your favorite." Neither of them noticed Alfredo's Mercedes still parked at the pier entrance, a narrow gap left in the window. The old butler stared through that gap at the young couple's clasped hands, his expression complicated. He rolled down the window, his cloudy eyes following Federico's retreating figure, his voice soft as a whisper. "Sir, should we fetch the young master back?" He turned to ask Alfredo in the back seat. Alfredo ran his fingers over the silver wolf's head atop his cane, his knuckles whitening. The cane had been passed down from his father. The wolf's eyes were set with tiny sapphires, now glinting coldly. "No." His voice was as rough as sandpaper scraping wood. "Let them fool around. They'll turn back once they hit a wall." 23 years later, on a late night, the same Mercedes pulled up outside a newly built apartment building in the Alfama district. The car windows reflected the searchlights from a construction site in the distance, like will-o'-the-wisps floating in the dark, flickering on and off. "Madam, we're here." The driver reminded her softly, his voice respectful. He'd worked for Isabella for 10 years and knew this lady, though gentle in appearance, was tougher than most men. When the Costa Group had nearly gone bankrupt, she'd stayed at the construction site with the workers for 3 months, turning an unfinished building into Lisbon's most sought-after apartments. I in the back seat. Isabella set down her financial reports, a silver fountain pen still clutched between her fingertips. A wedding gift from Federico. 2 olive leaves were engraved on the cap. Fine lines had appeared at the corners of her eyes, but her back remained as straight as when she'd stood on the warehouse steps years ago. The Federico's voice suddenly burst through the intercom, distorted by static. "Darling, the elevator's broken again. I'm coming down to get you." Isabella frowned and pressed the talk button, a hint of exasperation in her voice. "I told you not to use this frequency at the construction site. The gangsters monitor it. Last time, a harsh burst of static suddenly drowned out her warning, leaving only a hissing noise as she opened the car door. A cold wind rushed in, carrying the smell of tobacco. 3 shadows lunged from the darkness. The one in front gripped a steel pipe, its glint flashing in the night. Isabella's high heel got stuck in the door gap, trapping her. She smelled the heavy stench of tobacco and cheap cologne, choking her throat. "Don't move." A cold gun barrel pressed against her temple, the icy metal seeping through her skin to her bones. A hoarse voice whispered in her ear, "Your husband's already in the car. Don't try anything funny." A sharp pain erupted at the back of her neck, like a bee's sting. Her vision went black. The last thing she saw was the driver slumping over the steering wheel, blood dripping from the meter onto the floor mat, spreading into a dark stain. That young man, who polished her car every day, had just become a father last week. He'd even shown her his baby daughter's tiny socks. When she woke, iron chains dug in her wrists, her skin already rubbed raw. She lay on a cold concrete floor, surrounded by a damp, moldy smell, like the port warehouse all those years ago. Federico was tied to a steel chair across from her, his left eye swollen shut. A purple bruise spread from the corner of his eye to his temple. But when he saw her wake, he still managed to grin, revealing that familiar canine tooth. Remember our first date? At that little tavern below Castello de Sao Jorge? You had too much to drink and dropped pastiest and nata crumbs all over my shirt. It was worse than this. Water seeped from the damp concrete walls, dripping to the floor with a tick-tock sound. Isabella counted the drips to measure time, 12 per minute. She must have been unconscious for 2 hours. Suddenly, she noticed Federico's right pinky was bent at an unnatural angle, with blood crusted around the knuckle, as if it had been forcefully broken. Did they do that? Her voice shook, her heart feeling as if squeezed in a fist. Federico tried to move his fingers, the chains clinking. He sucked in a sharp breath, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Good thing, right? You always complained my piano playing was noisy. He forced a smile, though his tone was bitter. Won't bother you anymore. The iron door creaked open, its rusted hinges screaming. A bald man with a gold chain around his neck walked in, holding a satellite phone with its screen still lit. Call your chief financial officer. Prepare 11 million escudos in cash. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Deliver it to Warehouse 3 at the Old Port. He tossed the phone onto Isabella's lap. The metal case hit her knee, making it ache. That's impossible. She blurted out, clutching the phone tightly. The daily bank transfer limit is only 500,000 escudos. Even with advance notice, we can't gather that much cash. Don't you understand the rules? The bald man grabbed Federico's injured hand, pressing his thumb down on the broken pinky. Federico let out a muffled groan, cold sweat streaming down his face. Wait, Isabella screamed, her heart pounding as if about to jump out of her chest. I'll call. When the call connected, the drowsy hello of her CFO, Maria, came through the receiver, making her throat tighten. Maria had worked with her for nearly 20 years, since she'd opened her small trading firm. She was the person Isabella trusted most. Maria, she forced her voice to stay steady, though her fingertips trembled. By 7 a.m. tomorrow, prepare 11 million escudos in cash. Warehouse 3 at the Old Port. Don't ask why, just do it. Federico suddenly broke into a violent cough, as if trying to cough up his lungs. The bald man snatched the phone, yelling into the receiver. US dollars. Old bills. Don't try anything funny, or your boss won't just lose one finger. When he hung up, Isabella heard Maria's sharp intake of breath and the crisp sound of a pen falling to a desk. Why us? She stared at the third button on the bald man's shirt. It was loose with a thread hanging out. The Costa Group isn't even in Lisbon's top 10. There are dozens of richer companies. The bald man used the gun barrel to tilt her chin up, his rough fingertips scraping her skin. Your husband turned down a demolition project last week. Our boss invested 3 million escudos in it. He grinned, revealing a gold tooth, his smile as cold as a snake's. Could have tripled his money. Now it's all gone. Oh, and your accountant has a sweet voice. If you don't cooperate, I wouldn't mind inviting her here for a visit. In the middle of the night, Federico developed a fever, his cheeks burning like fire. Trapped 2 meters apart by their chains, Isabella could only gently tap his knee with her toe, trying to pass on a little warmth. Don't sleep. Talk to me. Her voice was soft, afraid of waking the guards outside. Tell me about our first construction site. Do you remember? Of course I do. Federico's voice was hoarse, his eyes half closed. You wore my shirt to direct the crane. It was too long, covered your knees. The workers were snickering, saying the boss's wife looked like a kid who'd stolen her dad's clothes. Her nose tingled, tears threatening to fall. That day, a nail had torn her dress. Federico, afraid she'd be embarrassed, had forced a spare shirt on her. The next day, Lisbon's newspapers ran photos with the headline, Mrs. Costa breaks tradition by wearing men's clothes to work. Everyone in Lisbon had heard about it. When dawn seeped through the air vents, the bald man returned with a laptop, its screen dusty. Video call. He set the laptop on a tripod, adjusting the angle. Let's check if the money's ready. Don't play tricks on me. On the screen, Maria stood in front of the vault, her face pale, dark circles under her eyes. Clearly, she hadn't slept all night. Isabella noticed a band-aid on Maria's left ring finger, a prearranged signal. If she saw it, it meant Maria had called the police or made other arrangements. The money's ready. Maria's voice trembled as she clutched the vault keys. But I need Madam's handwritten signature to confirm. It's a financial procedure. We can't skip it, or there'll be an audit issue. The bald man slammed the laptop shut, the screen going dark with a slap. Save the suspense. He bent down to unlock Isabella's ankle chains. They fell to the floor with a heavy clatter. You go get the money. He stays. If you call the police, or if you're even a minute late, you'll be picking up your husband's second finger. Federico thrashed against his bonds, the chair scraping the concrete floor with a shrill sound. No, she doesn't know any cash channels. If you send her alone, the police will stop her. He roared, his voice filled with despair. Isabella felt the cold metal of a gun press against the back of her neck. Another gun. The bald man forced the gun into her hand, his fingers wrapping around her knuckles to make her grip the handle. A choice for you. Either you go and trade the money for him, or he twisted her hand, pointing the gun at Federico's chest. You shoot him yourself. Saves us the trouble. The trigger was heavier than she'd imagined. Isabella watched Federico's pupils contract, shock and fear flooding his blue eyes. Suddenly, she twisted the gun around, pressing the barrel to her own jaw. If I die, you get nothing. Her voice was calm, but unshakably resolute. Either let us both go, or we all die here. Your choice. In a half-second, the bald man froze. Federico kicked the chair over. The steel chair slammed into the bald man's leg with a crisp crack. The man howled in pain. His gun went off, the bullet grazing his ear and embedding itself in the wall, leaving a black hole in the chaos. Isabella lunged for the laptop. The screen wasn't fully off. The video call was still connecting. She yelled into the camera, "Red Protocol. Repeat, Red Protocol. Tell Carlos to bring the SWAT team to Warehouse 3 at the Old Port. Hurry." The bald man recovered, punching her to the ground. The laptop fell, its screen shattering like a spiderweb. Isabella's forehead hit the concrete, blood oozing out and blurring her vision. But she heard it. On the other end of the line, Maria had grabbed the red phone, the emergency line they used exclusively to contact the police. When the SWAT team burst in, Isabella was shielding the unconscious Federico with her body, her back throbbing from a steel pipe blow. The bald man lay in a pool of blood. His gold chain was soaked in thick, sticky blood, like a dead snake. We can reattach the finger, the doctor said in the ambulance, holding a cotton pad to clean Federico's wound. It's just a tendon rupture. With prompt surgery, function won't be affected. Isabella stared at Federico's bandaged hand, blood still seeping through the gauze at the knuckles. She remembered how he'd complained just yesterday that his piano was out of tune, saying he'd play Noit no Doru, Night on the Doru. For her, once the construction site work was done, the song they'd danced to for their first dance at their wedding. Maria called, her voice exhausted. "Madam, the money's still in the vault," but she hesitated, as if struggling to find words. There was a note taped to the money crate. Typed, no signature. Isabella tightened her grip on the phone, her knuckles whitening. What did it say? This time it's a finger. Next time it's the pocket watch. Maria's voice shook. And there's a drawing at the end, an olive leaf. Just like the one on Sir's pocket watch. Isabella stared at her phone screen, her fingertips cold. Federico shifted in the hospital bed, his bandaged fingers twitching slightly, as if having a nightmare. Don't look at it. His voice was hoarse, his eyes still half closed. It's just a threat. They want to scare us. We can't fall for it. A nurse pushed in to change his dressings, the scissors on her metal tray glinting coldly, blinding. Sir needs another nerve check. She avoided Isabella's gaze, her tone unusual. There's signs of inflammation around the tendon suture. We might need to adjust the medication. Federico suddenly grabbed Isabella's wrist, his palm warmer than before. Tell Maria to change the vault password. His nails dug into her skin, leaving red marks. Use the one from our honeymoon. The one only we know. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, heavy, rhythmic, like leather shoes on tile. Retired Detective Carlos leaned against the doorframe, the third button of his uniform shirt undone, revealing the edge of a bulletproof vest underneath. He was Federico's old friend. They'd been in police academy together. Later, Carlos had retired early due to a wrongful conviction and become a private investigator. Madam, he held out a file, emblazoned with the police badge. The mastermind behind the last kidnapping. He died in the prison shower last night. Looks like murder. Isabella didn't take the file, her gaze fixed on his loose button. The file's corner was stained with a dark mark, like dried blood or a coffee. The prison showers are quite busy, aren't they? Federico sneered, his tone mocking. Wasn't that informer last month also accidentally killed by slipping in the shower? Carlos tossed the file onto the nightstand with a thud. They found this in his stomach. He pulled a clear evidence bag from his pocket, containing a preserved olive leaf, an eerie green, as if soaked in formaldehyde. Maria's call came again, with the sound of someone counting in Portuguese in the background, and the clink of shovels. Madam, something's wrong at the construction site. The demolition team dug 3 meters down and hit something hard. It looks like a loud crash echoed from the other end, deafening. It's a bomb. I think it's a bomb. Federico sat up abruptly, yanking out his 4 needle. Blood beads rolled down the back of his hand, dripping onto the sheets like tiny red flowers. Tell the workers to evacuate immediately. He grabbed a phone, his voice urgent. That land was an arms depot during World War II. There are unexploded ordnances underground. My father mentioned it once, but he never said where exactly. Isabella took the phone back, pressing it to her ear, her voice calm. Maria, don't call the police yet. She stared at the number on Carlos's badge, 1978, the year he joined the force. Get our own mine-clearing team. Old Luis and the others. Tell them to bring detectors. They need to be at the site in 20 minutes. Carlos suddenly grabbed her shoulder, his grip so tight it ached. Smart people know when to ask for help. His breath smelled of mints and a hint of tobacco. Like now, the police have professional mine-clearing equipment. Your people are just a civilian team. They can't handle ordinances this dangerous. Federico threw off the covers and got out of bed, his bare feet touching the cold floor. His wound pulled, but he acted as if he felt no pain. What do you want? He limped to the window, sunlight catching the new white strands in his hair like scattered frost. Stop beating around the bush. Say it. Cooperation. Carlos pulled a photo from his inner pocket. It was faded, its edges curled. The new development zone north of the city. The government wants to build a commercial district. We want 30% of the profits. He held out the photo. It showed their only son, Manolo, from behind at his boarding school. Manolo was only 12. He'd gone to study in England last year and sent them postcards every week. Isabella tore the photo in half, the pieces falling to the floor. Touch him, and you'll regret it. Her voice was soft, but the room suddenly went so quiet you could hear the beep of the EKG machine. If Manolo loses even one hair, I'll make sure all of you, including your families, pay for it. Carlos laughed, a loud, thunderous sound, revealing a gold-plated molar. You misunderstand, madam. He pointed to the parking lot outside the window. Look at that black van. What's hanging from the rearview mirror? Isabella walked to the window, following his finger. A black van was parked in the corner of the lot, its rear window covered with a cartoon sticker, a yellow duck identical to the one on Manolo's school bag. Federico punched the window frame. The glass cracked into a spider web, his fingertips also bleeding. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Carlos stuffed the olive leaf specimen into Federico's hospital gown pocket, his fingertip deliberately brushing the wound. Meet at the construction site. Bring the equity transfer agreement. No tricks. Otherwise, you'll never see Manolo again. As he left, he knocked over the force stand on purpose. The fluid spilled across the floor, soaking the tiles. When the nurse rushed in, Isabella was pressing a gauze pad to Federico's bleeding hand, her touch as gentle as if handling fragile porcelain. Call the police. The young nurse trembled, her voice filled with fear. They're obviously gangsters. Cooperating with them will only end badly. Shh. Federico suddenly held up a finger, his eyes alert. At the end of the hallway, a metal detector let out a sharp beep, 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 growing closer like a countdown. Isabella pulled the silver pocket watch from her bag, the one Federico hadn't been searched for during the kidnapping, which she'd kept with her ever since. The chain glinted coldly in the sunlight. The engraved olive leaves were still clear. Remember the boathouse by the Douro River? She flipped open the case, revealing a set of latitude and longitude coordinates carved inside. Faded from where? That's where we fell in love. There's a hidden compartment underneath, with our emergency funds and passports. Federico's eyes lit up, as if seeing hope. You kept it with you this whole time. His fingertips brushed the cold sweat on her palm as he took the watch. I thought I'd lost it at the kidnapping site. Maria called again, her voice breathless. The mine-clearing team's here. They say it's not a real bomb. It's an empty shell. And inside there are bones. The clink of shovels suddenly stopped on the other end, leaving only heavy breathing. Wait, there's someone alive. I think someone's still alive. The call cut off. Federico had already torn off his monitoring electrodes and was putting on his blood-stained suit jacket. His movements hurried. Tell the driver to have the car ready. He limped toward the door, his hand still trembling. Take the stairs, not the elevator. Exit through the emergency room back door. Avoid Carlos's men. The glass of the hallway fire cabinet reflected their distorted figures, like two fleeing soldiers. Isabella suddenly pulled him back, her fingertips clutching his sleeve. If we don't come back this time, tell Manolo that Mom and Dad love him always. Federico turned and kissed her, his lips tasting of medicine and the faint cedar scent he still wore. This time, I'll be the one bringing you an olive branch. When he pulled away, the hallway's metal detector beeped louder, sharp, urgent, as if it had locked onto something. Federico grabbed her hand, his palms still warm from the kiss, and tugged her toward the emergency exit. Hurry, he whispered, his voice tight with pain. His injured hand swayed slightly, the bandage now dotted with fresh blood. The guards are coming for us. Isabella's shoes clicked against the linoleum, fast and uneven, as they raced down the stairs. Through the window at the landing, she caught a glimpse of Carlos's men, two in dark suits, hands resting on their waistbands, scanning the hospital lobby. They'd found their trail. She pulled Federico closer, ducking behind a stack of clean linens, and held her breath. The men's voices drifted up, low, gruff, talking about securing the couple before they reached the car. When the footsteps faded, Federico pushed open the back door of the emergency room. The night air hit them cold, carrying the faint smell of diesel from the hospital's generator. Their driver, an older man named Joao, who'd worked for them since their first trading firm, was already waiting by the car, his hands trembling as he held the door open. "Madam, sir," he said, his voice barely audible. "I saw Carlos's van leave the front lot. They're heading to the construction site. They think you'll go there first." Isabella slid into the back seat, pulling Federico in after her. Joao peeled away from the curb, the car's tires crunching over gravel. Through the rearview mirror, she saw the hospital's lights shrink behind them. Warm, safe, a world they couldn't stay in. Federico took her hand, pressing the silver pocket watch into her palm. The engraving of the olive leaves dug into her skin, a reminder of the day by the Douro River, of promises made and kept. "Maria called while you were hiding," Joao said, glancing back. The mine-clearing team found 3 sets of bones in the empty shell, all World War II soldiers, by the looks of their uniforms. And the live person? It was a stray dog, trapped under a metal beam. "She's safe, though. Maria sent her to the vet." Isabella nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. On Manolo, on the yellow duck sticker on Carlos's van, on the equity transfer agreement Carlos demanded. She flipped open the pocket watch, staring at the latitude and longitude coordinates. The boathouse by the Douro River. It was their last safe place, the one Carlos didn't know about. "Joao," she said, leaning forward, "take us to the Douro, the old boathouse, and call Maria. Tell her to meet us there with the emergency funds. We can't go to the construction site. It's a trap." Federico closed his eyes, resting his head on her shoulder. His breath was shallow, his injured hand throbbing. "He won't hurt Manolo," he said, more to himself than to her. "Not yet. He needs us to sign the agreement. He needs the Costa Group's share of the development zone." But Isabella wasn't sure. Carlos had already broken fingers, threatened lives, killed a man in prison. He wouldn't hesitate to hurt a child if it got him what he wanted. She tightened her grip on the watch, the cold metal grounding her. "We'll get him back," she said, her voice steady. "We fought harder for less. Remember the rain in Lisbon? The coffee crates? We built everything from nothing. We'll do it again for Manolo." Federico opened his eyes, a faint smile tugging at his lips. The same smile he'd worn when he'd proposed under the warehouse eaves, when he'd laughed at her for dropping pastillas de nata on his shirt, when he'd stood with her in the mud of their first construction site. "You're right," he said. "We always do." The car drove on, the road winding toward the Douro River. In the distance, the first hints of dawn painted the sky pink, soft, fragile, but a sign that night was ending. Isabella stared at the pocket watch, at the olive leaves engraved inside, and knew they'd get through this. Together, as they always had.